From the street, it looked like any other beauty spa. Women laughed as hairdryers hummed. Music played softly in the background. The scent of perfume and fresh shampoo floated into the road, inviting, harmless. Behind the glass doors, receptionists smiled warmly, nails perfectly done, faces glowing under bright lights. Everything looked normal. But behind those glossy walls, something far darker was happening. Lives were being controlled. Choices were being stolen. And babies were being produced for a price. No one knew how far the building truly stretched, or what secrets waited behind its final doors. And once you stepped inside, there was no turning back. Welcome to the place they called the Baby Factory. At first glance, the building had only one face. Polished floors. Clean mirrors lining the walls. Makeup palettes spread across counters. Women came in for hair, nails, massages, and beauty treatments. Some visited weekly, others monthly. Conversations bounced off the walls as laughter filled the air. Passers-by hurried along the street, barely sparing the building a second look. Nothing seemed unusual. It was almost perfect. But the building had three faces. The side entrance led to a hotel and bar. Guests checked in and out casually. Men dressed in expensive clothes sat with drinks in hand, bundles of cash tucked discreetly away. Staff moved smoothly between tables, trays balanced on their palms. Music played softly, and from the outside, it looked like nothing more than a lively hotel. Then there was the back. No one ever saw the back of the building. High concrete walls rose into the sky, topped with barbed wire. Heavy gates stayed locked. Security guards stood watch day and night. The windows were narrow and blurry, the doors sealed to outsiders. No one was meant to look back there. Behind those doors lived girls of different ages. Some were heavily pregnant. Some were recovering from childbirth. Some were still new, confused, terrified, learning the rules too quickly. Everything inside was calculated. The girls were constantly monitored. Phones were forbidden. Meals came at fixed times. Pregnancies were planned, tracked, and managed like business transactions. Babies were born, recorded, collected, and sold. Pregnant girls were moved from room to room. New arrivals learned fast that obedience was survival. CCTV cameras watched every movement. Security checks never stopped. And outside those walls, no one suspected a thing. Only by doing exactly what you were told could you stay alive. And even then, nothing was ever certain. Once you stepped inside, there was no going back. Running all of it was Mrs. Vivian Cole. The spa brought in steady money. The hotel brought in more. But the baby factory, that was where the real profit lived. Hidden behind locked gates and silent walls, it made her richer than anyone could imagine. Mrs. Vivian Cole rarely entered the back herself. She didn't need to. Orders were passed down through supervisors, and punishment followed disobedience swiftly. In that place, obedience was not optional. Most of the girls had been tricked. They were promised jobs at the spa or salon. Training in hair, nails, makeup. A chance to earn money and build a future. The truth revealed itself only after they were led through the building, past the public spaces, past the hotel, and into the back. That was when they were told their real job. They were there to produce babies. For each baby, they would be paid 100,000 naira. Some girls cried. Some begged. Some refused, at first. Not all the girls were deceived. Some arrived willingly. They were found on the streets, pregnant, homeless, with nowhere else to go. The madam offered shelter, food, and money, just enough to keep them alive and compliant. Most of them agreed. Because outside, they were alone. Inside, they were trapped, but fed. And the fathers of those babies? That, too, was part of the plan. The girls were sent to the hotel and bar side of the building. They poured drinks, danced, entertained men. Some were told to sleep with them. The pregnancies were never accidents. Everything was arranged, timed, controlled. Babies were born in the factory, and each one already had a buyer waiting somewhere. The buyers came quietly. Some were rich men in suits. Some were foreigners. And the building, with its laughter, music, and shining glass doors, continued to smile at the world, while swallowing lives from the inside. Some of the buyers were people no one wanted to be linked to: ritualists, cultists, men with dark intentions and secret lives. They paid heavily for each baby. Inside the factory, girls whispered about it at night. Some cried in corners. Some held their newborns for as long as they could, memorizing their faces, their cries, their warmth. But in the end, money always exchanged hands. And the babies were taken away. And the cycle continued. At the center of it all stood calm, elegant, untouchable Mrs. Vivian Cole, watching, calculating, never getting her hands dirty. Kimmy had been one of the oldest girls in the factory. She had lived behind those walls for 6 long years. 4 babies had been taken from her already. Now she was pregnant with her 5th. She was always quiet. Always sad. Every time she thought about how she ended up there, tears burned behind her eyes. Mrs. Vivian Cole had promised her a big job in the city, a real chance at life. Instead, Kimmy became property. Even the midwives weren't free. They lived inside the compound too, paid to care for pregnant girls and newborns, allowed to leave only occasionally for holidays. Everyone behind the walls belonged to the same trapped world, controlled, watched, owned. When Kimmy finally delivered her 5th baby, she refused to let go. She begged. She cried. She clutched the child to her chest. But the madam didn't care. The baby was taken from her by force. That was the moment something inside Kimmy shattered. She screamed. She threw herself onto the floor, sobbing with rage and pain. In her brokenness, she swore loudly that if she ever got the chance, she would expose the factory. She would report everything. She would bring the whole place down. That night, her screams grew louder. Security guards came quietly. They dragged her away. No one ever saw Kimmy again. Her disappearance sent fear crawling through the walls. Every girl felt it. Every staff member understood the message. Silence or death. A month later, rumors spread, government officials were coming. A raid. Rescue. Justice. The girls dared to hope. But nothing happened. Mrs. Vivian Cole had already done her work. Bribes. Gifts. Promises. Money changed hands again, this time to buy silence. No one spoke. No one acted. And once more, the girls learned the same truth. The world outside those walls could not reach them. I arrived on a Monday morning, bright-eyed and full of hope. My name was Idioma. I had traveled far from my village, carrying dreams of work, money, and a better life I had been promised. The front of the building welcomed me like a dream. For a moment, my heart lifted. This was the future I had imagined. "Good morning, miss. Welcome to the spa," the receptionist said warmly, handing me a form. I smiled. "Thank you. I'm really excited to start working here." For the first week, everything felt normal. I trained at the salon, learning to style hair, apply makeup, arrange products, and run the counter. I laughed with the other girls, imagined earning money, saving, and sending some home to my parents. Then one afternoon, a young woman appeared at the doorway. "Madam Cole wants to see you," she said quietly. My stomach tightened. I nodded and followed her, past mirrors, past buzzing hairdryers, down a narrow corridor I had never noticed before. At the far end of the compound stood a tall black gate. It looked forbidden. The gate opened silently. The air on the other side felt different, heavier, colder. No music. No laughter. Just the smell of disinfectant mixed with something I couldn't name. I was led upstairs into a polished but eerily quiet office. Behind the desk sat Mrs. Vivian Cole. "Welcome, Idioma," she said softly. "I've been expecting you." I forced a smile. "Thank you, madam. I'm ready to work hard." She studied me for a moment. "I need to tell you the truth," she said calmly. "Your work will not be in the salon." Confusion tightened my chest. I don't understand." "You will live here, in the back building. You will follow the rules. You will bear children for our clients. You will be paid. And you will not leave unless I say so." My stomach turned. No. I didn't come here for that. I came to work. Mrs. Cole smiled, polite, unshakable. "That was only what you were told," she said. "You have 3 days. Decide whether you cooperate, or you don't leave at all." That was when I understood. The walls weren't just walls. They were a trap. I was taken to a room at the back. 5 girls sat quietly on narrow beds. 3 were pregnant. 2 had just given birth. The room smelled of disinfectant and baby powder. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, refusing to believe this would be my life. The next 3 days were unbearable. I cried alone. Refused food. Barely spoke. The other girls avoided me, afraid. On the 3rd day, Mrs. Cole summoned me again. "I want to go home," I said, shaking. She laughed softly. "After entering here, nobody leaves." Then she leaned forward. "You walk, or you die." When I was sent back, I collapsed onto the floor. That was when Nurse Agnes noticed me. She sat beside me quietly. "Let me cry." Then she said, "Crying won't save you here." "I just want to go home," I whispered. She sighed. "Everyone does. If you want to leave, you must plan. You have 2 weeks." The next morning, I bowed my head before Mrs. Cole. "Madam," I said softly, "I've thought about it. I'm ready to work." Her smile returned. "Good," she said. "You'll be moved." That decision changed everything. I was transferred to another section, where girls who had accepted the work stayed. Cameras everywhere. Guards always watching. And for the first time, I understood. If I wanted to survive, I had to play along. She soon learned that once the lights were dimmed, selected girls were quietly led through a monitored corridor connecting the back compound to the hotel wing. They were dressed, checked, counted, and watched at every step. No one ran. No one resisted. Anyone who tried never returned. On the 9th day, Nurse Agnes handed her a general staff uniform, the same one worn by workers who moved freely between the spa, hotel, and service areas. Agnes leaned closer and whispered, "People don't look twice at staff." The plan was finally clear. On the chosen night, she was taken with the others toward the hotel side. Cameras followed them. Guards counted them. Everything felt routine. Once inside the hotel, noise swallowed them whole. Music blasted. Laughter echoed. Men drank, smoked, and shouted over one another. The air was thick and chaotic. At the right moment, she leaned toward a guard. "Please, I need to use the toilet." He waved her off, already distracted by the girls dancing. Inside the restroom, her hands shook as she changed into the staff uniform. She tied her hair differently, wiped her face, and altered her posture. When she stepped out, she was no longer a girl. She was staff. She picked up a tray of empty glasses from a corner. Her heart raced, but her steps remained steady. She walked through the back of the bar into the service area, just like she had watched the workers do countless times. No one stopped her. She moved through the corridor and reached the car park. The area was dimly lit. Men were leaving in ones and twos, some drunk, some loud, some barely able to stand. She stayed close to the shadows, avoiding lights and attention. Then she saw it. A man stumbled toward his car and unlocked it. He opened the boot to drop something inside, then stepped away to answer a phone call. She didn't hesitate. She moved quickly, slipped into the trunk, and lay flat. With shaking fingers, she pulled the emergency handle down so it wouldn't glow. Footsteps returned. The boot slammed shut. The man kept arguing on his phone as the engine started and the car pulled away. Minutes felt like hours. When the car finally stopped, she pushed at the trunk. It didn't open. Panic rose in her chest. She banged once. Then again. Suddenly, the trunk flew open. The man stared at her, stunned. Before he could say a word, she ran. She ran until her chest burned. Until her legs shook. Until every sound faded behind her. When she finally stopped, she looked around. She didn't know where she was. No money. No phone. No belongings. But she was free. And she was alone. Somewhere behind her, Mrs. Vivian Cole would soon realize someone was missing. And I knew one thing clearly now. Escaping was only the beginning. She would survive. She would fight. And she would bring the truth to light, no matter the cost. Watch out for part 2 of The Baby Factory. Idioma's journey to expose the truth has just begun. If you want to see how she faces danger, saves the girls, and challenges the empire built on stolen lives. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The story isn't over. It's just getting started.